Next speaker is Professor of English, Punjabi University, Dr. Rajesh Kumar Sharma. He also edits a magazine called the South Asian Ensemble, and quite an avid blogger also. Professor, so.
Is it on?
It's on. No, it's on.
Oh,
right.
What I say will be probably very unprofessional and very different, in the sense that I don't belong to those domains of knowledge building which requires a very rigorous kind of work that you have seen demonstrated in Professor Jokar's presentation. I have been intrigued by the concept of Punjabiyat for some time now, and what I say will be a kind of fragmentary things plus some narratives, out of which I believe maybe a certain map of the problem of Punjabiyat can be constructed. We were talking today about Manpreet Balal's pretending to offer a serious alternative to Punjabi politics. And I remember about 2 years back he came to our university, and in his presentation he stated, and I am witness to that, in the presence of a full Senate hall, that Punjabis need for their supremacy a kind of Ku Klux Klan.
Right. I read that blog.
And I was surprised that nobody reacted on the spot or subsequently. And people who were sharing the stage were some of the so-called leftists of Punjab. When I confronted them, why did not they speak? They said, well, did he really say this? I said, yes, you are looking at his face with your mouths open. And here is a man who says that he loves reading history. And he's a serious scholar of history, he says. Two things to begin with now. One is the politics of location. I can already see that between Chandigarh and Patiala there is a lot of difference. It's hardly 60 kilometers. And the way Pukhraj can, propose some problems, some topics, you just cannot do it in Punjabi University, Patiala, or in Patiala as such. The same way, I have seen Shimla offers you a more conducive atmosphere for liberal discussions. There is a poet visiting Punjab these days, John Siddiq from London. He was there in Patiala in a seminar. And when I rose up to say something on his presentation, everybody in the hall said, Rajesh ji Punjabi bolo. As if you have entered a very different territory. Now, Gurbachan, those who read Punjabi literature and Punjabi commentary and criticism would know, has been repeatedly talking about the onslaught of corporate capitalism in Punjab and Punjabi culture. And he stresses on Punjabi Pasha and Punjabi poem, Punjabi language and Punjabi land. Now, John is a man whose grandfather lived in Jalandhar. His father went to England. John was born in England. So John is from a Muslim Punjabi father from Jalandhar. His mother is an Irish Catholic. My question was, this man talks about Punjabi in his English poetry. He says my poetry is not rooted in British literature, but in Latin American poetry. But he talks about Punjabi soil and Punjabi air. Now, why do you want to disown him? I lost my only house I had after my father's death. For 21 years I had no house of my own in Punjab. Does it mean for 21 or 22 years I was not a Punjabi? Ambanis can buy 20,000 acres of land in Punjab. Do they become Punjabis by that only? Does it mean that everybody who is being deprived of his land, or who is being forced to use another language, or who is learning another language and refusing to speak Punjabi or write in Gurmukhi, is he not a Punjabi? So my question is, why do we not interrogate the stereotype of Punjabiyat? I have very tentative ideas, and one of those ideas is that maybe we cannot even define Punjabi as a QOM or as a nationality or as any kind of nationalism. The reasons are: one, historical. I don't know how far people like J.S. Garewal are correct in saying that the people who stayed in Punjab after the departure of those people who had composed the Vedas, those are the ancestors of today's Punjabis. I don't know if it is correct or not, but if it is correct, as he goes on to say, Greeks and Romans and other people descended on Punjab, and we are the children of all those cultures and all those races. If that is the case, how can we build walls around Punjabiyat saying that Western literature is not our own literature? In that sense, Greek literature is my literature because I have ancestral connections with it. Roman literature is my literature. See, one of the problems, of course, Hindus are responsible for this, just as Sikhs are and Muslims are, that we failed to propose a unified and internally differential Punjabiyat at a politically very significant juncture in the history of post-partition India. Of course, we are responsible. We are all responsible. It is equally correct that communities have been identifying or disidentifying with the concept of Punjab or Punjabiyat depending upon the vagaries of the political weather. But beyond that, when today, in times when peace prevails, relatively peace prevails in Punjab and there is no political violence in Punjab, what really is happening that a certain stereotype has taken over all discussions of Punjabiyat. And I see it as a kind of attempt to disavow the reality of Punjab. See, the people who praise Punjabiyat as something that is in your blood, they don't remember that this is the language of fascists. Two, that Punjabi is in poem. They should remember that this kind of language actually, debars those people who are being deprived of land, landless, entire farming class, for example, and people who have land in Punjab or whose land or whose properties have been snatched away because they are NRIs and who cannot afford to fight legal battles in Punjab. I mean, if my children live in a Western country and their children have no property in this Punjab and they do not speak Punjabi, do you want to say they are not Punjabis? We should read, I think, Jean Rice's novel, Wild Sargasso Sea, who talks about the people who were born out of the sexual contact of the whites and the blacks. And those children were neither accepted by the whites nor by the blacks. So where would they go? On the one hand, we are talking about Punjabiyat Dileri and their, open-heartedness. On the other, we are disowning the diaspora. We are disowning languages within Punjab. And this has happened very, very systematically. Unfortunately, this has not stopped happening. Madan Gopal came to the university the other day and he said that in today's Punjab, it seems that history begins with Sikh history and ends with Sikh history. In Punjabi department, recently they have reintroduced Free Bani because Free Bani had been excluded, almost banished, I would say. See, if Punjab is the land that created the Mahabharata and the Vedas, why can we say that Buddhism doesn't belong to Punjab and Mahabharata and the Vedic literature doesn't belong to Punjab? Then, what has rather appeared in place of the concept of Sabhyachar culture is a certain kind of counterfeit culture. In the name of, UGC grants and other things, you are shooting films with the purpose of conserving images of Punjabi culture in which dancers who are MSc or PhD are dancing on university and college stages. And you say this is the real Punjabi culture of people. And this is being done basically as a kind of commercial industry. Right? So, the question of culture has been dissociated from the people, has been dissociated from history, and it obviously has no future. I would like to talk briefly about the concept of immunity that an Italian thinker, Roberto Esposito, has in the last few years elaborated. He says that cultures and communities destroy themselves which build kinds of immunity systems which refuse to be contaminated by touch with others. And this is what I think is happening in Punjab. I tell you, I was talking to Suman also today, she is our student, that I have been trying to read Heer Waris, because for years I have heard that if you are a Punjabi, you must read Heer Waris. And believe me, I have not found a single dictionary of Farsi Punjabi or Punjabi Punjabi or Punjabi English or any glossary, any concordance on Heer Waris. During days of terrorism in Punjab, Farsi, Persian was systematically thrown out of the courses. People who were doing PhD in Punjabi were required to do a course in Persian. Persian was debarred. Sanskrit they don't want to touch with a long pole. English they say, "It Angrez hai." They'll go to the English language sections of the library, look at the books, come out after reading the blurb. And the reason would be English literature and books in English are vulgar. And this is sometimes a public statement made in seminars and academic bodies. Imagine this. So what kind of future does Punjabiyat or Punjabi have? So I was thinking that maybe Punjabiyat should not be really treated as an essence, something that inheres in your blood or in your lipi or in your language. When I speak English, my English is a Punjabi English. See, I have a very serious problem with the idea of Punjabi literature that departments of Punjabi literature propagate, and they don't want to listen to you. And that idea is Punjabi literature is all literature that is written in Gurmukhi, and now with some dialogue with some Punjabi, Pakistani academics, they are saying also in Shamukhi. What about Navtej Sarna writing about Punjab, for example? What about Amardeep Sandhu writing? What about Amarji Chandanji when he writes his poetry in English? Would we say that his poetry is not Punjabi? I don't think he would be happy identifying himself with British poetry. Why can't we have a concept of Punjabi literature which is Punjabi literature in Punjabi, Punjabi literature in Sanskrit, Punjabi literature in Hindi and in English and in other languages? Maybe somebody is doing some kind of cultural production in Punjab in Marathi. People are doing it like the Biharis are doing it. Where are the records of that? I read an article by Dr. Harbhajan Singh. See, adding doctor is very fashionable and of course objectionable among the Punjabi academics. Some people are only recognized because they put doctor before their name. So I'm saying Dr. Harbhajan Singh because there are many Harbhajan Singhs in Punjabi discourse. Now he says that opere nu apanat naal milna Punjabi da lachan hai. That's a beautiful thing. To meet, rather to embrace the other as your own is a sign of being a Punjabi. But the other side is equally important. To recognize the otherness in yourself should also be Punjabi. Within us also there is so much otherness which we need to recognize. And then he is actually talking about Taniram Chatrik. And Taniram Chatrik is again a kind of, mlech of Punjabi criticism today. Because maybe one reason is, as Harbhajan Singh says, talking about what he does to the Radha Krishna stories, he says he has rendered them in totally Punjabi ambience. Udo Kahan di gal suna koi, he says Krishna is a Punjabi boy there and Radha is a Punjabi girl. Why can't we do this today? Who is stopping? There are no, fires being shot today. Well, what has happened is a certain academic and pseudo-intellectual inbreeding, a certain incestuous inbreeding is taking place. And I was told by someone once a very interesting anecdote that somebody went with a sifarish to a vice chancellor and he said, "Hey, mera bhatija nu naukri de deo," kehanda gaushala hai koi. And the fact is, state universities in Punjab are becoming gaushalas. People who are unemployed anywhere are finding employment as academics in our universities. And they are feeling threatened the moment you talk about, opening up the domains of Punjabiyat to the larger Punjabi character or the Punjabi experience or Punjabi history. In place of a history of Punjabiyat, I think we need somebody to undertake a genealogy of Punjabiyat, exactly in the sense in which Foucault or Agamben uses the word. And genealogy, as Agamben says in a recent essay, What is an Apparatus? He says genealogy is like going into how something is formed, how Punjabiyat is formed, and what you will find there is that there is no Punjabiyat beginning at a certain point. That at a certain point everything disappears into so many factors that any point of identification is impossible to find. And this is a basic scientific fact. Somehow it has become very convenient to say that we identify Punjabiyat as these qualities, and Gulwant Singh used to do the same. Toward the end, I have two short narratives to share with you. One is, which I shared with Chandanji also when he came to Patiala. I happened to read Balwant Gargi's Hoseen Chehre, and there is an incident where he talks about his visit to New York sometime in 1984, maybe it is March or April. And there is a very brief kind of, description of what is happening in Punjab, and Gargi evokes it with silence, and then suddenly he talks about one man, a friend, Harbhajan Gill. He says, he said, have you been to Bathinda? He said, yes, I go almost 2 or 3 times a year. He says, Bathinda has got huge chimneys of thermal plant. Have you seen them? He said, yes. And he says, oh, Rabb da Ghagra hai. And towards the end of that essay, Gargi again brings Harbhajan Gill back, and now Gill is saying, somebody has asked, Punjabi ki hai, Punjabi Sahit ki hai, Shastra ki hai, Punjabiyat ki hai, kehanda, oi. And now excuse me, I'll speak a little in Punjabi because I am trying to invoke the presence of Bhajan Gill among us. He says, oi, Punjabiyat ki hai, ਇਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੱਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ ਕੀ ਹੈ. See, it itself is a symptom of something. Maybe a refusal to confront our roots, our genealogical roots, and to be happy with stereotypes. Then he says, Punjabiyat ਬਾਰੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਅਤ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਚੁੱਕ ਕੇ ਮਹਿਫਿਲ ਚੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਮਾਰ ਦੇਂਗੇ. ਇਹੋ ਹੀ ਆ. And the third thing, he says, ਓਏ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਅਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਨਿਰਾ ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਘੱਗਰਾ ਹੈ. And I was trying to connect the use of the metaphor in the beginning and at the end. See, ਇਹੀ ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਘੱਗਰਾ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਥਰਮਲ ਪਲਾਂਟ ਦੀ ਸਵਾਹ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਚੋਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਕੈਂਸਰ ਨਿਕਲਦਾ. So if that ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਘੱਗਰਾ is a kind of cover up for God's shame or God's privates, then it has definitely got a meaning. Just as it has got a meaning for a kind of, what I call a kainati shamyana. It's a kind of cosmic shamyana which covers everything. And another, a brief narrative would be about Rajinder Singh Bedi's story Garam Coat, which I would relate to the overcoat of the great coat of Gogol, about which it is said that the later Russian literature came out of the pocket of that great coat. Now Rajinder Singh Bedi's hero is also worried because he has lost his 10 rupees. He has put them in the pocket. The coat is very old. He wanted to buy a new coat, but the wife wanted something for the ears, and the daughter wanted gulab jamuns. And when the note is lost, he is very worried, and he goes back to his home. And after 3 days, the note is found again, because through a hole in the pocket, the note has disappeared into the pocket, into the coat only. But he locates that note and he takes it out and gives it to the wife. And he says, go and bring something for the children and for yourself also. In the evening she comes back, she is carrying cloth for his coat and nothing else. And Bedi there comments, makes the wife of the protagonist comment, see, I have bought the best coat for you. Bedi आंदी है, माँ मेरे गुलाब जामुन ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਚਪੇੜ ਮਾਰਦੀ. So where I could find, you see, a meaning emerging in these stories was that maybe the quote that we are going to invest in as Punjabis or as people concerned with Punjabis should not deprive certain people, disenfranchise certain people who also have a claim on gulab jamuns. So they are the subaltern. Two, what has happened actually is that a whole cultural, historical, civilizational background has disappeared through a hole in the pocket. We have lost it. But it has not fallen somewhere. We can definitely recover it, bring it back, but not to buy another coat of stereotyped Punjabiyat, but something else, something for everybody from which nobody is disenfranchised. So that is the point I wanted.
Thank you very
I hope I
much.
said something.
Very poignant.
Thank you.
Very pertinent. Very pertinent. We'll entertain a few questions.
ਨਹੀਂ ਜੀ ਬਸ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਇਹਨੇ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਸਟੋਰੀ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਐਵੇਂ ਇੰਟੈਲੈਕਚੁਅਲਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਤਾ ਉਹ ਚਪੇੜ ਹੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਅਤ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਾਤਾ ਕੁੜੀ ਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਾਤਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੱਪੜਾ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ
We'll entertain one or two more questions very quickly. Anyone?